Hi there. Welcome to 5 Points a Day to Ace PMP 2021 exam. This is volume 38. What we usually provide is 5 questions, but here let's look at 5 points. Now all these points, they are taken from my rather comprehensively selling book by the name of Read and Pass Notes, and it's available on all Amazon sites. It's called Ninja Notes for PMP exams 2021. All right, let's have a look. Point number one, work performance data to work performance report. Basically, if you look at 6th edition, we have work performance data, which is an output. Also, we have work performance information, and finally, work performance report. Now, when you talk about work performance data, information, and report, we need to remember that over a period of time, work performance data has to be converted into information so that we can take proper decision on that information. And finally, for the consumption of the stakeholders, you have to convert it into reports, because all information doesn't have to be provided to all different kinds of stakeholders. So it has to be converted into apt reports for the consumptions of the stakeholders. And therefore, there's a journey. Now, out of the 49 processes which make up the 6th edition, let's look at the journey of work performance data and which all processes are involved in the transformation of data to report. The very first thing that you need to remember is direct and managed project work produces work performance data. Now, if the question is basically talking about work performance data or data in general, they are talking about direct and managed project work. It's an output of direct and managed project work. This is where your deliverables are created. This is the main execution process. Now, work performance data becomes an input to 10 out of 12 controlling processes, right? So you need to know that work performance data is an output of only one process, which is direct and managed project work, nowhere else. But this work performance data becomes an input to 10 out of 12 controlling processes, right? So you have cost control, quality control, and so many other different kinds of controls, all of them 10. And they all produce work performance information. There would be some information connected to cost, some connected to resources, some connected to what they call a quality, and so on. And therefore, you have work performance information. Now, all these work performance information become input to one and only one process, that is monitor and control project work. And monitor and control project work, this is where all the projects analysis is done in terms of health analysis is done. So work performance information helps in doing that, and the output is work performance report. This is how work performance data gets translated or transformed into work performance report. All right, let's move on to point number 2. Journey of deliverables. See, another very important output in PMP exams is deliverables. Now, deliverables go through a proper journey. Now, they are born in the process called direct and managed project work, right? But over a period of time, it transforms. How does it transform? Let's have a look. See, direct and managed project work produces deliverables. Now, these deliverables cannot simply be given to the customers. We have to do verification ourselves first. That means quality control. And therefore, it becomes an input to the process called control quality. Now, this control quality, if it passes through the control quality process, it's called verified deliverables. That means they have gone through the verification process and they have sufficient quality which is needed for this particular process. And therefore, it is called verified deliverables. These verified deliverables are then presented to the customer in the process called validate scope. And if the customer accepts them, they meet the requirements, the customer accepts it, it becomes accepted deliverables. This is where the project gets completed. But completion does not mean project closure. Completion is from the point of view of the customer. So the moment the customer accepts deliverables, well, your project is completed. But now we need to close it. So this is a trigger. Accepted deliverables becomes an input to the process called close project or phase, because this becomes the trigger. All right, now we have to close the project. Right? So let's have a look at it once more time. Deliverables Deliverables are created by direct and managed project work, which become an input to the process called control quality. If it gets approved here, it becomes verified deliverables, which in turn becomes an input to validate scope. If approved, it becomes accepted deliverables, and that is the trigger to close project or phase. Now, the reason you need to know the journey of deliverables, because in the examination, if you come across a question which talks about verification or the verified deliverables, that the team members have just gone through the verification processes or your project deliverables have just been verified, it simply means that what you have just finished is control quality and that you're about to get into validate scope. So to understand the scenario, which specific stage of the project you are in, these kind of patterns of, what I call deliverables, or basically patterns of ethos, need to be understood. The most common of them is deliverables. Perfect. All right, let's move on to point number two. Point number three, sorry. Virtual team. Virtual teams are a tool and technique of only two processes, and they are acquire resources and develop team. That means when you see any examination question which talks about virtual teams, discusses virtual teams, essentially the scenario is only related to either acquire resources, getting hold of the resources, or developing the team. That means either the questions on virtual teams would be about how to develop the team virtually, what kind of things that you can do to develop them virtually, and or there may be questions about, hey, there are some resources which are placed in some other country and you need to work with them, so which is another way to work. You can go for virtual teams. So basically, understanding ethos in this manner will make you come to the realization of the scenario or understand the what is it that scenario is trying to address much faster. So virtual teams, remember, is a tool and technique of only two processes, which is acquire resources and develop team. All right, let's move on to point number four. Emotional intelligence. Now, if you look at the tool and technique, emotional intelligence, it is unique to the process managed team. It is not even used for developing team. It is used in managed team. Therefore, emotional intelligence will be usually the scenario around emotional intelligence would be about conflicts, about, stages of conflict. Basically, emotional intelligence, all questions connected to emotional intelligence as far as PMP is concerned would have something to do with managing the team, right? So therefore, always remember, the moment you see anything about emotional intelligence, well, in general perspective, they are talking about conflict handling, stages of conflict, basically about manage team. All right, let's move on to point number five, the very last one in this particular video, and that is active listening. Now, active listening is the tool and technique of three processes. The moment you see this term anywhere in the scenario, talking about question scenario, talking about active listening, well, it would either mean any of these three processes. Either they're talking about managed project knowledge, that is lessons learned, basically talking about knowledge. Second, either they can be talking about managed communications or they may be talking about monitor stakeholder engagement. Remember, active listening is a tool and technique of only three processes, and they are managed project knowledge, managed communications, and monitor stakeholder engagement. Perfect. All right. Having said that, this brings us to the end of this video, and thank you for watching. Go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out any of the videos. Also ensure that you press the bell icon and do comment, do engage. If you have a question, any suggestions, any improvements, any queries that you need to clarify from me, go ahead and make a comment. I'll love to engage with you. And at the same time, since PM Pulse as a policy does not engage into any kind of a paid promotion, we depend on people like you to help us get promoted. Share it with people. All right. Catch you later, and the best luck for PMP exams.